Okay. Hello and greetings to you, viewer from across the tubes. I am Gnarly Quack, although my friends and enemies call me Carl, and I'm back today. And I guess I'm going to be working on a testing framework, um, Doctor Strangetest. And hey, Bazin, I think this is the first time I've come off the starting screen. I've already had a viewer, or at least one that's been talking to me. So how are you today? Done some later streams the last few days, which you've probably been in bed for, but I've had some job interviews going on this week, which has kind of thrown off my schedule, or at least my streaming schedule. And I have contemplated kind of just switching right away into moving on to my C++ project because I guess some technical interviews, excuse me, coming up tomorrow and Monday. Uh, Although I suppose if I'm not prepared at this point, it might be too late. But I'm not quite sure if they're going to ask me like leet code style questions, or if it's just going to be sort of more talking about stuff I've worked on. But anyway, I kind of do want to finish this project up, so I would kind of hate to just leave this. So I guess I'm going to just try and push to get this finished up. Um, I'm not sure I remember. You'll have to refresh my memory on that one, Bazin. So the last thing I did was actually I want to take one more look at that. Last night in sort of a late stream, I switched our name resolution from using a regex to like a full-fledged parser. Well, not to make it sound like a bigger deal than it is, but oh, nice. Yeah, that sounds uh you're supposed to like tie a tire, like an old tire to the bottom of it and have like a tire swing or something. Boy, what'd you have to do? Like climb up the tree? Oh, so there's a couple things I want to do here. First of all, I just want to walk through this and make sure because I was doing this so late and I really struggled with getting the finicky logic right. But also, instead of returning null, I guess, potentially null, uh, I guess I'll just end up, because I already here have a case where I throw an exception. I guess I will just throw more exceptions. Oh no, I guess I was kind of thinking like almost kind of something like that. Like that. I feel like that's very, at least in the US, that's very like kind of kind of a popular childhood thing, and you could like, I don't know, I guess you could kind of stand on the tire, and it's a little bit easier than trying to hang onto a rope, I guess. And you can just jump off the tire, like so you swing out, yeah, and then like this little one here. I guess you can set on it, but yeah, you could just like kind of stand and then swing out and jump off. I know it's probably not a good idea if you think about it, but I guess that's kind of what I was thinking. So yeah, let's do this. So we pick off the name. So if we have a namespace separator, and actually one thing I can do too here is regardless of what's going on here, I can increment the start value. So I can pull that out too. So if this is the first character, then we're basically saying we want to resolve the name. Basically, we don't want to do sort of any default resolution. It's a global resolution. This I can actually, I think, bump this out actually. So otherwise, if yeah, if we have some actual valid identifier characters, then we want to just pull off whatever we got. If we already have a namespace, then we'll just tack on whatever we have. If we don't, and let's see, at this point we can't even, our only option here, I don't know, I suppose we could leave it as resolve global. But basically we're saying if it's resolve default, then we want to check if we have a use statement that matches this part. And then if we do, we substitute that for the namespace. Otherwise, we just set the current namespace. And then regardless of what we do, we tack on this thing. Otherwise, we have a invalid name, so we'll just throw a new exception. I guess what I kind of want to do is maybe just, if I can find the right key, say what the identifier is, and say just invalid identifier character at position, and then we'll put this, we'll put that at I, and then we want to do the name, and we'll do the pos, I guess. And that will sort that out. Otherwise, if we have this colon, right, it looks like we may be at the start of a basically a method. So we want to check that we have a second colon. So we first need to make sure we're not already at the end of the string. And if we aren't, then we want to check that the next character is also a colon. If not, then right, we're gonna throw the same exception, which will be here. So then if this is the first character, and we are in a class, so if this is the first character, then if basically we're only allowing this to be specified from a method. So let's also change this. And I'm trying to figure out like kind of a clear way to word this. Basically, what am I saying? Trying to force resolve as a function. Guess that's what we're saying. Force resolving an identifier to a function can only be done from within a method. I guess that's what I'm saying. So otherwise, then, right, we pick off the class name. So I kind of feel like I just want to maybe put this first. So if we don't have a namespace, so if we have a namespace, we're already set. So if we don't have a namespace and we want to resolve the default, then basically we look this class up. And if we find it, then we use that. Otherwise, we set the current namespace to the default namespace. And then regardless of what we do, we tack on that class. Again, this is going to go to an invalid character. And then regardless of what we do, we want to advance this to the next semicolon and then set start to the character beyond that. So finally, I'm actually going to inline this function, I believe, but I want to, let me just... so I guess what I'll do is I'll just kind of nastily paste this in here for now. And I guess what I want to do is do that. So we want to grab the ORD basically the ASCII number. So we'll set that, and then actually in this case we'll set name I equal to be that character. Oh, I don't have a pause here, do I? In fact, this is a completely nonsensical message there. Otherwise, we're gonna throw here. Let me just go fix these other. Of course, I hosed myself there, I think. Okay, so this is correct. So, sorry, we grab the ordinal value. If it's basically an uppercase letter, we normalize it to lowercase, and then we update the name. And then we want this to be actually, we want this to be I minus start. Otherwise, we allow underscores, we allow lowercase ASCII characters, and extended ASCII characters. If it's not any one of those, then we throw this, and we're all set. So now we've reached to the end, and if let's just yank this. The problem here is going to be that I don't know. And actually, in this case, right, we are no longer returning null. We're just concatenating everything together. To come back up here, so we should have some sort of name, and in that case, we pick off the name. So if we have a namespace or a class, we're basically done, right? Because we've done all the work up above. But if those are empty, and we're not sort of resolving this globally, then if we have a default class and we're resolving to default, then we want to pick off, well, we don't want to pick off, we want to set the class to default class, and that includes the namespace, or the namespace is included. I feel like I kind of want to make this note elsewhere. I guess not. Okay, I guess that's the only place I want to make that note. So if we're calling this from within a class, then we set the class. Otherwise, right, we want to look up to see if we're using this function, and if so, we use that. Otherwise, we're going to tack the current namespace on. So let's see what that looks like. That should break a few tests. That should probably make PHP stand a little grumpy too. Oh, yeah. So we no longer need that. And actually, I guess we no longer need that. We no longer need that. And so this is just going to throw. So that, I think, should solve that. And now we've got, oh, we got some errors. What is my error? Well, that's not right. Test set a qualified function resolve. So what's going on there? So we're passing in foobar. We're getting foo bar. So what's happened? This should not. It's happening on 37, so it's happening for the function instance. So I guess we'll just step into the debugger there. We want to break source util.php, and that's going to be 56. Okay. So all this gets initialized. Cars F. Okay, so we don't have a namespace. We don't have that. So I guess that was okay. Okay, so we're not going to have that right. Oops. I want to spell care. So that is that. So now we have this. So if I is not equal to 0, right? It's equal to, we just said 3. Also, if I is greater than start, right? Start is still 0. We grab that. So if we have a namespace, we don't. We should not find, it is, our status is resolved default. So that is not set. So we just set that. And we tack that on. Oh, yes. That is extraordinarily dumb of me. Equals I plus 1. Okay, so now my only stuff is errors here because 96. So both of these are going to be and then we have what? I don't know. Let's just throw that in there for now. But essentially, we're going to have the same sort of logic here. Should have a couple failures there now. Fix that. And this is 106. Yeah, okay. That's a little bit confusing because this... In fact, so what I think I'll do is... I think I'll show what the character is. So I think what I want to do is... So I'm just going to turn this into a function. So we're going to have message equals... I guess it doesn't really matter. So we're going to have the name, the character, and the position. So we're going to have the name, the character, position, or maybe I'll just have this as the identifier. And we'll type hint this as identifier. I think it's return never. $238. Oh yeah. Not sure why that's so this is going to be so this is going to be the name, the character, and the position. Sounds good. So this is going to be and the same thing's going to be here. So I guess what I want to do is name expected, and let's take actually this So I guess what we'll do is we'll call this assert invalid function. Put this down here maybe. We don't need this context. I guess what I want to do is and we want to do context subtest guess that's kind of what I want to do. So we were here at 107, I guess, kind of. So we're going to want to do assert valid function name I guess that's going to kind of look like that. Yeah, unexpected variable context 45. What are we talking about? Not sure what the problem is there. Oh, I guess, yeah. I'm confusing myself because it looks like So 138. So this is going to go to expected equals that, and then we're going to want to do name expected context. And we want to do assert invalid method name expected context, which means we need to grab a context here. All right, and then 140. This is going to be the same thing. So, oh no, actually, it's going to be a different error. It's going to be, all right, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I believe. Yeah. Okay. And actually, while I'm in here, I feel like I want to do assert function. Actually, I guess I don't know. Let's see what that looks like. try and clean these up a little bit. Oh, this is foo. Okay, let me just dump that down there. This is going to go to oh, this is down here in 183. That looks okay. Dump that down there. That should make that fail. Okay, so that should clean that up. Uh, what I may want to do, I may just want to pull all these errors out into sort of their own. We have invalid identifier. Yeah, and then let's just paste that. Let's just grab this function, I guess. Welcome back. Resolution. I just kind of feel like that cleans that up a little bit nicer. Okay. So that, I believe, pretty much takes care of that. So the only to-dos I have in here are this, so maybe we'll take care of that. Oh, I need to take out that break. Yep, should remove my debug code. Okay. What branch am I on? I think I'm still in work. I guess I kind of want to call it, what did I basically do? I just basically kind of improved, inline some stuff, improved the diagnostics. Hey Bruno, how you doing? Welcome to the stream. Go private for a second to make sure I'm logged into my GitHub account. Looks like I am. Oh, I got the red cam back. Oh, they added some more gunk here. Is any of this even useful? I doubt it. Yeah, those are I kind of made Halloween themed stuff for the rest of October, so they're just for Halloween. Then I'll go back to the new ones. Or not the new ones, the old ones. I'm not. I'm writing one. I'm writing a test framework, but I pretty much. I mean, I'm using parts of the PHP, standard library, but I've pretty much written it from scratch. And for development, I am using PHP Stand to help as like a development tool. But otherwise, I'm using my own test framework and I'm using it to test itself. Or I'm writing my own test framework and I'm testing it, using it to test itself. And right now, I'm just working on sort of improving the declaration of test dependencies. So there's a lot of sort of finicky parsing involved in that. So what I want to do is I'll go back here in util. Are you like much of a PHP programmer there, Bruno? Oops, I guess that's already a comment. I don't need to comment out a comment. So I think I'll just take a peek at this documentation just to make sure we are these name resolution rules. I guess we don't technically handle that, but I don't feel like we should. So we are doing that. Fully qualified names always resolve to the name. For qualified names, the first segment of the name is translated according to the current import table, which is what we do. And this is what we're not doing right now. If no import rule applies, that's what we're doing here. And that's what that is going to do for us. For unqualified names, again, the name is translated according to the import table. Right, so let's see here. That's what we're doing here. If we don't have a namespace, so it's not qualified, right? We're checking the import rules, and if not, we're using the default for the current namespace. Yeah, this here is a big PHP, but anyway, I'm not going to start ranting about that. So then, same thing down here, right? If it's not qualified, and we want to resolve default, then yeah, we resolve it according to the default class. Otherwise, we look it up in the import table. This is kind of the only change. Otherwise, we use the default name. So this is kind of that was the last sort of piece that we were missing there. Okay, so that is going to break some things, as we shall soon see. So yeah, I should follow the actual. So 125. Sorry, both of these are going to resolve to example. I think that's what we're saying. And this is in 98. Again, these are going to resolve to example, I think we're saying. Yeah. And down here, this breaks this test quite horribly. That's in 263. So what are we testing here? This is going to be resources. This is, I think, dependencies. This is in guess we'll have to look at that. So I guess we need to qualify that is what we're saying. then we need to edit, what's our other option? Param. Will that make that pass? No. So we'll have to take a little bit closer look at this. So that required, so what happened in non-param test 6? Oh, well, that's right. So param test 5. Param. Right, this is in param test 5. So I feel like, oh, this is what we, right, this is, oh, wait, this is what we expected. Okay. Gotta learn how to read my own diffs. This depends on non-param test 6, which was never run. Okay, so what happened to non-param test 6? So this is not getting parsed correctly. So let's find out what's going on there. What test is this? Actually, this is going to be a class. Okay, so what we want to do here, let's get into the debugger. Is this an util? Okay, so we want to break on source util.php on line 56. Okay, so we got it. We just have that use Strangetest. Okay. I think class should be null. Okay, so oops. Yeah, okay, so start. So we should be starting with that. So if I equals 0, we're resolving globally. And you set start equal to 1. Okay. So now I should be 1. And we should not have that, right? We should have characters here. So let's break on let's break on 65 here. Now what happened? Ugh. All right, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So this is why I hate the debugger. Okay, so now we want to break on 66, right? So what did we say name was? Depend, right? So, okay, we skip that. Skip that. Get the word. We have a lowercase character. Okay, so we have the namespace separator. I is not equal to 0. I is greater than start. So that looks correct. If namespace, we don't have a namespace. Oh, do we just never set this because we're dumb? I guess that would be it. Right. So if namespace or status equals oh boy. All right. Okay, fixed. Are we doing the same thing down here? All right. Did I? Well, I guess I'll see in a second if I deleted my to-do. I did delete my to-do. All right. Actually, one interesting thing I can do there is so now I should be able to do that actually. Yes. See, that was the whole point of that. Very, very, very cool, in my opinion. Make sure that works everywhere. That looks promising. Did you roll out, Bruno? Are you still chilling? Did you have any questions about anything, or are you a PHP developer at all? So I feel like just looking at my to-dos here, since we're now accepting a closure here, I don't know, I don't feel like calling that name anymore. Um, Although parameter names are now APIs or form part of the API. Although again, this is a 0.1 release, so I'm thinking about renaming this parameter. What do I have in the documentation here? Declaring dependencies. I think I might call that tests. Yeah, because I keep using this word tests. Yeah, so I'm going to call this tests. Let me just make sure I'm not using this variable somewhere else. Does not look like it. So this is going to be not sure why that's set there. Okay, so I guess that's why I have that there, even though I feel like that's never the case. Where am I? 270. 190, 206. Why don't you think test is going to be... I guess because of that. That's just not true. All right, let me take a little bit closer look at this. So if test is a string, then right, we pull off the default namespace in class, then we resolve it. Okay, otherwise if it's a closure, we reflect it. If it's a class, we get the class name and the reflected name. Otherwise, then we set tests to the resolve name and unset those. Okay, I don't think we're ever using test in here. Right, we don't use it until we get the hash. If we don't have a result, if it failed. Otherwise, we set it to the example. Now down, so now if we have any dependencies, we're done. Otherwise we skip and, so I don't understand why this thinks, well, I better just use func get args greater than 0. Does that make PHP stand? I would be shocked if it does, but it does. So will that allow me to take this assertion out? It will. Okay. I mean, I feel like it should know this. I wonder if I should file a bug report, although they probably consider it a feature request. Like, I shouldn't have to assert this if I have a required argument and I grab all the arguments. Oops. No reason that should fail, but might as well check it. Okay. So I think with that, I'm going to take a little bit of a break. Do like a bathroom break, refill my water and whatnot. So I guess I'll take about 6 minutes or so. Yeah, so if you're still there, Bazin, you'll get to hear my new Halloween break music. Anyway, I'll be back in a little bit. I guess, so I guess the next thing I may want to do is just sort of take a look, run here. What to-dos do I have in here? Not too much in here. I can't really remember why I had that to-do in there. Buffer, no, not that one. I guess this is why here. I think I may leave that because for the moment, because I just kind of want to run through this logic and just. I think what we're doing in here is actually fairly clean at the moment, except for the part where we're running method tests, because, and I've kind of been like struggling to sort of figuring out how best to kind of organize that. That in conjunction with sort of, because I also have this like lingering to-do about kind of potentially consolidating function info and function test and also method test and method info. And then there's just some things about where we're storing namespace info, because right now we're storing, we only need this for tests. So we're storing that in a function test, which could actually justify splitting this off. Excuse me. Splitting this off as a, or making this its own class than just a function info. But then at the same time, we're storing this namespace info in a class info here because, as it turns out, the only classes we're interested in, at least currently, are test classes. So there's just a little bit of a, and maybe it's not a big deal, maybe it's just bugging me for no good reason, but there's kind of an asymmetry between storing this namespace info here in the function test, but we're not in the class test. And then there's also kind of where we're sticking these hashes, I think just to kind of get things working. And these are the, I may actually rename these to ID or something. I feel like these probably belong in the info. And this probably isn't even a name. This should probably be an ID. Because I think, right, we don't really have robust enough testing, but namespace names are also like case insensitive, so these should all be getting normalized when we discover them, and we should only, when they appear for display, they're going to appear as part of a function name or a class name. So this isn't actually a display name. This is like more of an ID. So there's just kind of all these things, and then there's also holding methods holding a reference back to the class, which we can maybe, I don't know. So I guess I kind of just want to look at all this, and sort of just take a closer look at kind of how we're using all this information, and then that maybe can lead to some cleanup here. But especially with like method tests, because right now we're kind of instantiating a new method test every time we, I think, we run a test, and we can kind of, I think we can cut down on that a little bit. So I'm just going to kind of walk through here. So now what we do when we run these tests is we sort of initialize an empty array of arguments, and then we start with our top level run instance. And then basically, while we have tests to run, if it's a test run group, we run the test run group. Otherwise, we run the directory. If we end up with any postponed tests, well, if we don't have any postponed tests, we're done. So otherwise, we have tests that were postponed because they declared dependencies on other tests that hadn't been run at the time. So now we try and resolve those, see if those tests have been run. And if we get back any additional tests to run, well, if we don't have any more tests to run, then we're done. Otherwise, we reset our array of postponed tests, and then we build up the list of additional tests to run from the dependencies, and then we loop. And we should only, I guess, probably ever loop twice, but whatever. This doesn't matter. So then our next step down is really this test run group. And we take this suite because this is used as like the reference of which to build the additional tests. So, okay. So this is going to be the test run group. And that's the integer ID. So we should always I wonder if we use this path. I suppose we probably do, right? New, or don't we? That must be the file path that it's in. Let's just see what we're doing with that. Oops. Yeah, well, let's boy, 319. I guess that is like the file path, so I may just want to Yeah, that's a directory name. And then we may be using this in okay, but it does look like we're using that path. But I think what I'm going to do is change this to file path. So where was this? We've got target 763. And 165. Discover. $65. $327, $319. Those are oops. And then 197. Uh, 622. Okay. So we should have a setup there. So we have this run name. Where are we using this? Make sure that looks okay. So for each run, we grab a setup and we grab the setup name, then we buffer that, then we run the setup, and then we end buffering. And if we get and I think I may want to change this to a run result. Okay, so, but anyway, so we run that. So if we don't get an array back, we should get an array back. This should be an error. We may actually have a test for this, or a to-do to write a test for this. Then we get a new run instance. We set. This seems a little silly to me. That seems like it should not be test names. That should be, seems like it should be name. Yeah, so let's change that to name. And we're going to have kind of the same thing here. If oh, this is already handled in. Okay, that's already handled. And I feel like I kind of want to do this here where I start kind of pulling out these errors into so we need the logger here. Name, file, line, I guess. One thing I guess I want to do is it's going to break a couple tests. Well, I guess I can just okay. Okay, so next is running a directory, I believe. Uh, Actually, I kind of want to be a little bit better about some of these parameters here. Uh, okay, there's no need for like an assertion there. Name equals. So what are we saying? Name is the setup name, and that's the teardown name. Okay, so that makes. Oh, wait a second. Uh, we've ended the buffering. So yeah, and we specifically said like, okay, that's the state logger. Yeah. So I believe I'm probably gonna need this for run file. Yeah, I'm gonna get rid of this comment. This is a little bit, so we want to like kind of distinguish between a case where, so technically, right, run setup, like the setup function not returning valid arguments is an error. But, right, it's not the type of error where there was an actual error during the execution of the function. So, um, so we kind of wanted to distinguish the case where the function actually ran successfully, but we got back an invalid result versus the function just failing, right? If the function outright fails, we're done, right? If the function actually succeeded, we want to run teardown. But if we got back invalid arguments, right, we still want to tear down, but we only want to run tests if we got back valid arguments. Which is like an array of arguments or nothing. So that's kind of what's going on here. Oh, I should still be in my directory. I think except I already said I was happy with this. So we'll take out run name again. So kind of here is where things start to get a little crazy. Well, anyway, I guess we want to tack the run qualifier on here. Right, because not every, we're going to instantiate a new class instance for every run, and so not, it could be the case that not every um, instantiation fails. But this is basically, well, this actually isn't even, this is not even for failing, that's just for buffering. So we want to run instance in here. We don't need that. Oh, but we're gonna need to pass in the run in here. Okay, so now basically what we want to do is let's just I guess maybe do the simple stuff here. So here, what I guess I kind of want to do is so what are we doing in I guess this is kind of what I was talking about, like this callable info. And hashes, I guess, should, now that I'm thinking about this, right, we only want like those hashes or those IDs to live on tests. Because those are really the only things that we're like caching and looking up later. So I'm wondering if, so, hey, Schoolie, how you doing? It went well. Uh, oh, I'm sorry. Just kind of something specific or just kind of just not feeling it today? I'm doing okay. I had a short interview with the recruiter, and then he basically immediately set me up with an interviewer with their hiring manager, and that actually went really well. So I've got two, I guess, technical interviews coming up, one tomorrow and one Monday, which I'm a little bit. I mean, I guess stressing isn't the wrong word. I'm not panicking, but I'm not quite sure what to expect. And so I was kind of halfway, and it's in a different language than PHP, so I was kind of half debating, well, maybe I should just start my new C++ project today, but I'm kind of like, well, I don't know how much there is cramming for this. Either I know what they're going to ask me or not to a certain extent. But I was kind of, there's all these like programming project or problem sites like Leak Code and stuff that I was like, okay, I'm going to start tackling that. And now here I am going into a technical interview, and it's like, maybe I should have been doing that after all. I don't know. But anyway, so I don't know. The hiring manager I talked to said it wasn't going to be too hard, and maybe actually knock off here in a little bit and do some sort of prep for that. But so that was kind of a pleasant surprise, unexpected. So we'll see how it goes. Well, thank you. Yeah, yeah. I mean, part of the reason I've kind of been streaming is to kind of prepare myself for a situation like this. So if somebody asks me something, I can like I'll and especially right, it's also going to be like a um what do you call it, like a Zoom call or whatever, like a video call. So it's like, okay, I've been spending the last month or two, maybe at this point, maybe not quite like right, literally doing this, but it's I don't know, it's a different thing going into an interview, I suppose. But it's always kind of surprising the interviews. Oh, really? Just as kind of like a practice, like an interview prep sort of thing, or to like interview you for their course. Oh, that's weird. Have you already signed up for it or paid for it? Because you were also doing those like pre-course exercises, right, to kind of prep for that. Huh. Yeah. That seems kind of weird, right? Because it was you're doing that web dev one, right? Because it talked about not needing any prior programming experience, right? Huh. Well, maybe they just want to know if you're actually a vet or something. I don't know. Make sure you wear your Navy hat during the interview, I guess. I don't know. Well, I don't know. I guess have they yeah, maybe. Well, I kind of feel like if they've taken, I mean, I guess if they haven't taken your money or the VA's money for that matter, right? I mean, uh, we should all care about that, right? Because it's taxpayer money. But then I guess it's not a huge deal. But it's kind of like if somebody's paid for the course, I mean, I guess they don't want to look bad, but if somebody's paid for the course, it kind of seems like, well, if you wash out, you wash out, right? I don't know. Maybe it's good that they're doing that. To be honest with you, I don't know. Right, because it'd be, I guess, I mean, depending on what the interview is, I guess from the student's perspective, it's actually better for them if they kind of want to see if people can make it through before taking their money, as opposed to just like, well, you paid and you washed out, so not our problem, right? So I don't know, maybe maybe try and look at the upside, but I don't know. I don't know what information they sent you or told you like specifically what they're going to talk about. But I kind of feel like based on having no programming experience and the stuff you've already done, uh, like right, you've got Linux installed. I mean, not that that's technically programming, but I feel like you've probably got enough under your belt to. I mean, unless it's an issue of like how fast they proceed. I don't know if it's sort of at your own pace or it's set like set class times. Yeah, how'd that go? Okay. I mean, that kind of makes sense, I suppose. Right. And do you know if they're interviewing everybody? Like they're not just interviewing you, are they? Because that seems like it'd be fishy then. So do we have? That's separate from that course, though, right? The one you're taking. Those three courses. I guess I don't quite understand what you're. They're only interviewing people who complete those prereqs. Wait, so they want you to have all that stuff done? Isn't that everything they're supposed to be teaching you? So have you done all of that stuff? Like, did they tell you what tutorials to look at for like Git and Agile and stuff? Like, I don't know how often they offer the courses, or if you have some sort of time limitation with the VA, but I don't know. I'm almost kind of thinking, right, take these prerequisites they want you apparently to have and like just go through those and then see how you feel after you go through all those. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if those are like, is Code Academy free? I'm assuming free Code Camp is, but and if you go into this interview, I guess ask them like, you can, I would probably be upfront and be like, so what are you teaching that is not in, yeah. Well, the only downside to that, right, is you're not right, and I know what you're saying. I guess I'm just saying the only downside to that is, right, you actually kind of want to learn that information. So that's why I mean, I guess if they're you've completed them, but I'm kind of like if they do this boot camp every month, maybe take your time to go through those prerequisites that they want you to have and maybe even still see if you need this boot camp. Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, I guess I don't know what you mean by cheating too. Like, unless you literally like looked up the problem solution and typed that in. But if you were just looking for how do I do this in JavaScript, like a syntax thing or whatever, I don't know if I'd call that cheating. Like, I'm always looking up stuff on the internet. Like, how should I do that, right? Well, yeah. Yeah. I guess we do need that in there. Well, I mean, do you feel like you learn anything out of those prerequisites? Okay, well, that's good. That's something anyway. Well, I guess, I don't know, try not to stress about the interview, right? I mean, I know that's easier said than done. Here I'm sitting here kind of stressing about my own interviews, telling other people not to stress about theirs, but I don't know if there's something you think well, I don't know if you know what they're going to interview about. If there's something you can prep about, then yeah, I guess do what you can, but try not to stress too much. Uh, hey, I'm gonna mispronounce this. Hey, Shkapo, how are you? I'm working on a test framework for PHP. Welcome to the stream. Basically, yeah, yeah. Where am I here? Do I have functional code? Probably not at the moment. Oops. Yeah, so yeah, I'm working on basically my own test framework. I mean, it's open source, so anybody can use it, although nobody is right now. The only person using it is myself in its own development. But yeah, basically like an alternative to PHP unit. I'm using PHP Stan, but this is the framework running its own tests on itself. Um, I've actually, if you're at all interested, I actually splurged for a website for it. This is it here. And then I've got the source repository just up on GitHub. But basically, I'm not so familiar with paratest, but essentially, it automatically discovers your tests. So I have just a folder in here, tests. And if you look in there, I've got all the test files begin with tests, and any sort of subdirectories of tests also begin with the word test. And then as part of that, it also parses all your files. So here I just have functions, straight up functions, and then begin with the word test. So I parse the files and I find them. With PHP 8, though, you could also just do an attribute. Like that, and then you wouldn't have to prefix the name of the function with the name test. So that also mark that as a test. Basically the same thing with classes too. So right here, this is a test class. You could do the same thing here, use an attribute, but then the functions also, or the methods in here. If they begin with the word test, they're automatically discovered. Although as of PHP 8, you can use that test attribute. So that's kind of the sort of the basic premise of it, but I've just sort of added other features in there. Um, I've tried to kind of match features as well. So you can use declare test dependencies. So, one test will require another test. Yeah, that's fine. Well, so I actually support right now PHP all the way back to 5.3, but I just looked at the documentation for 8.2, so I support all the way up to 8.2. Um, so yeah, and I just added support for like first class callables and stuff. But so you can do things like declare dependencies between tests, like you can in PHP unit. But well, there's actually somebody he hasn't been around for a while that um, found himself working on like a legacy project. But basically, I just kind of let me look this up real quick. But basically, since it's yeah, I know it's just kind of to provide a tool for people that are stuck with legacy projects. So I mean, I don't know if there's a better website, but I just use this to kind of gauge usage statistics. So you can see almost like a quarter of the PHP instances or servers out there are still on 5. And then there are actually more people using like 5.3 than 5.5. But basically, since it's a testing tool, I just feel like, if you get stuck working on a legacy project, right, it's a tool that you can use to sort of help you bring that forward to newer versions. So I'm not interested in like letting people still write unsupported code and unsupported versions of PHP, but I just think it's a testing tool, like a testing framework, sort of has a unique position of sort of, well, this is a tool you can take with you on a legacy project, and then you can use it to bring it forward to current versions of PHP. So because right, if you change jobs and you get stuck with like a PHP 5 project, right? I don't even know, like PHP unit I think follows PHP's support. So like as soon as PHP 7.4 drops, like the next version of PHP unit after that will drop support for 7.4. So which means if you get stuck on an old project, you're stuck with your tool. Oh, right. Yeah, I don't have any deprecations. I just support them all. So, and I haven't really had to choose between support and features so far. Like, I mean, you obviously can't use attributes before PHP 8, but if you have PHP 8, you can use them. But it's like, yeah, if you get stuck, I guess nowadays not even a PHP 5, but you get some sort of old PHP 7 project that they want to upgrade to 8. Um, you're either going to have to use an outdated testing tool, or I guess you could use mine, I suppose. Yeah. Yeah, right. I'm not saying people shouldn't upgrade. They obviously should, but the reality is, especially I think with bigger companies, they don't upgrade. But then also, if you get stuck in an old code base, none of your tools, right? If the tools sort of rigorously follow like the supported version of PHP, none of the tools you would normally use are available to you on an old code base. That's all I'm kind of saying. So that's why, like, if I was writing a different project other than a testing tool, I wouldn't be targeting such old versions of PHP. So it's just sort of something I think should be the case specifically for this tool. That's just kind of my thinking on that. Well, yeah. I mean, the most annoying thing about supporting having to support PHP 5.5 is the old array syntax, or 5.3 is the old array syntax. So I've got everywhere in my code base, I've got array instead of, instead of that. But again, it's just I'm kind of just going off these usage numbers. It's not my intention to like forever support 5.3. It's just right, if a quarter of PHP deployments, again, I guess it depends on how much you trust these numbers, are running PHP 5, then that seems to me like a significant enough portion of deployments that it's worth supporting. So I'm kind of running my numbers based off of usage, not sort of, again, and that's sort of my philosophy specifically for this tool, not in general. But since it's a development tool, I kind of feel like it should be a little bit more lax on support standards, or on what versions it supports, I guess. And like I said, there's basically nothing I haven't wanted to do in the language that I haven't been able to do. Again, I've just been able to add niceties like the attributes that I showed you. Like that's definitely nice stuff to have. But it also, I mean, I don't know. I'm sure there's stuff PHP unit does that I don't do, but it's I don't know. Back when I used to use PHP unit, it didn't support making assertions with the built-in assert function. Um, you can also do test dependencies, so you can declare this test needs to pass before this one runs. And then because it automatically discovers your test suite, it automatically resolves those and runs your tests in the correct order. I also have you can like parameterize your tests and then run them multiple times with different arguments. So I don't know. It's just test framework I would like to use, and if other people like to use it too, then or find it useful, then hopefully they will. But I don't know. All right. So as I was looking through the runner here. Did I close? Oh, I guess I closed my. So I was here in run class. I guess I was thinking I might do a new method instance, and then I'll do. Oh, okay. Well, I mean, is it actually multi-threaded? Because like PHP isn't multi-threaded. I could see multi-processor unless it's doing something. Okay. What does it use to run a multi-threaded? Not that I'm having speed problems. Right, I'm running 270 tests in 0.07 seconds, so if we assume linear scaling, which it should be, right? I could, yeah, true. It all depends on the tests themselves. If the test itself is slow, then there's only so much you can do. I wouldn't mind making it multi-threaded, but since PHP doesn't have built-in multi-threading, yeah, without sort of adding a C extension. So let's just maybe do this. I mean, are you testing those remotely? Because yeah, if you're going over the network, okay. So I guess um well, what do we need? Let's just pass this in. Let's maybe hold off on method here. Okay, that's kind of what I thought. I mean, like I've looked at some other frameworks, and I don't know if like PHP Unit has that built in, but I find usually what it does is it um, right, it actually kind of dynamically writes another PHP script and then executes that as like its own subprocess. So I mean, you'd have to. I feel like you'd have to have a very slow test in order for that to be a win. I guess that's just my thinking. No worries, Schoolie. Thanks for stopping in. I imagine I'll probably see you before Tuesday, but if for some reason not, then good luck on that interview. And yeah, try not to stress too much about it. Like I said, I know that's easier said than done. So thank you, man. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. I don't know if it is actually. Uh, so what I want to do here is instead of passing that in, I want to pass in these method instances. So this is going to go to a method instance. And then let's just see what PHP Stan has to say about anything. That'll tell me what I need on those method instances. Yeah. But I feel like kind of one of the things about imposter syndrome, right? And I'm not immune to it myself. It's honestly kind of one of the reasons I also started streaming, because I'm actually in between jobs and doing job interviews. But I think one of the things about imposter syndrome is you think you never know enough. Um, And so you kind of paralyze yourself with just sort of, oh, I need to learn more, or I need to do another project, or I need to get something else under my belt. And then you do that, and it's like, oh, but you never think you know enough. And in some respects, right, it kind of totally depends on what you're trying to do. Yeah. Well, I went to a job fair recently, and I spoke to a person there who, because everybody else left, and she was there she was basically the senior person there. She'd been there the longest. She was the senior developer, and she's like, I don't know anything, and they're bringing in new people that I have to teach. So that's maybe a little bit different, but yeah. But then I feel like a lot of companies kind of want you to know their tech stack, and everybody kind of has a little bit of a different tech stack, or that's always changing. So it's like, well, what do you value more, knowing a specific technology or sort of knowing the principles of software development or how to program or whatever it is that they're hiring you for? I don't know. But I don't think you should ever feel like you've known it all. There's not something new you can learn. But I guess I feel like imposter syndrome is more, you never feel like you know anything, or you know enough to sort of kind of go put yourself out in the line, or some, you know what I'm trying to say, if that makes sense. All right, what are my failing tests here? Or not even my failing tests, but 6. 1, 2. So I just okay. Dumb mistake. So we need a name, file. Looks like that's what we need. PHP stand. I've tried to use Psalm, but there's just too many things, like, at least based on the way I code, that it doesn't allow or doesn't like or can't handle. And so I find PHP stand tends to be the most flexible. PHP stand, yeah. Well, I don't know how fast Psalm is, but oh, well, PHP stand can be too, but it at least I think it caches files that haven't changed, so um, it only analyzes what changes. But I mean, PHP stand can be pretty slow too. I mean, that's fast because I haven't changed anything, but as soon as I change something, it'll take a little bit longer than that. So we want a name. So I guess we'll just kind of set these manually at the moment. And then we need a file and line. Oops, that's I haven't used like PHP Storm or anything. I used to use like Genie on Linux, but I tend to prefer, I don't know, sort of more minimalist setups, I guess, as opposed to like VS Code and stuff. I guess I'm kind of a snobby programmer that way. I don't know, do you use like PHP Storm or something? I know like PHP Storm is pretty popular with PHP developers. So the whole point of this is to avoid this. Oh, yeah. So I don't only program in PHP, so I program in like, I shouldn't say a lot of different languages, but I kind of just like being able to have, like, regardless of what I'm programming in, like sometimes I'll do Python, or lately I've been doing more like C and C++. So I kind of like just like being able to work in the same environment. Um, Regardless of like what language I'm working in. So I think I'm going to need that. I guess I can just take that out, but and actually if that works, then I can just assign that directly. Yeah, I know. Not that I necessarily care about viewer numbers, but I think if I wanted to get more people watching my stream, I would need to pick basically any other language. So now what happens if I do this with I have not actually. Although I've watched a couple um streamers. I guess theoretically I don't need to do this until down here, but whatever. But no, I haven't learned Golang. I think I'd rather learn Rust over Golang, but I know Golang's pretty popular as well. It seems like there are quite a few Golang programmers, at least that stream. So what am I where's this test coming from? Oh, here, right. Okay, so what are we doing with this test? Well, we get the name. And then we have the file and the line. And there's also stuff we do in the context, I guess, with that. Thanks for the lurk, Scavo. Appreciate you stopping in. And if you have any questions or anything, yeah, feel free to shout them out. Or just type them in the chat as well, since I won't hear you. So I kind of wonder if I can do more. So what are we doing in record test result? The test. Oh yeah. Okay. We're grabbing that hash off of it. So that might be all I want to do. With that, but right, the whole point of that now is, let me take a look at here and as we no longer need to build this setup and teardown method for every method. And I don't know, I kind of feel like I want to do the same with the method test, but right, it's being used in the context, and then that means it's going to have to match API with a function. So test name. We got to pull, but I was sort of talking about maybe being able to kind of consolidate some of that stuff, or not consolidate, but so like instead of having a method info, maybe we make I guess we could maybe even make like a function test. All right, let me just take a look at this test. So that is like the full name. That is the full name. That would be the namespace info. So these are kind of the same, but we could also have that be sort of an optional class name. So this could kind of compress. What am I looking for? So that would be, what are we using for the index? That would be the full name. That would be the full name. Or no, that would just be the test outright. So that's interesting. That's interesting. Well, I guess one side effect is the fact that right, the fact that the stuff is postponed, right, we're saving that off, so we don't want to keep an object handle around. Hmm. Because we'd be leaking that object handle. But I still do kind of like the idea of, right, here it's not really an issue because, right, there's no instance, object instance we have to deal with. So we can still maybe collapse this stuff down, or we could just make these. I think so. What is the potential issue here? I don't. So the fact that we may actually cache these method tests off because they get postponed actually means we can't sort of optimize kind of reusing one method instance. Because, right, we don't get back the, I mean, we could always return the result. And I kind of wonder if we're saving off more than, right, we're saving the entire function test and method test. And so what do we actually need off of here? Maybe we just don't want to save this whole thing. Um, name, file, the line, name, file line, name. Well, we use this quite a bit in here, I guess. I guess we just do that to pass that in. Okay. File. File. So we do need to access that class here. Okay. Hmm. Although we only need the name, right? We only need the name, so we could sort of collapse all that down. I'm not sorting on dependency anymore. I may need to take a little break. Or maybe just kind of split these things out a little bit more. Which is maybe what I'll do. Um, but let me see where I'm at now. I think I am passing on all my tests. Yeah, shit. I think I'll just add this for now. What time is it getting to be? It's almost 5 o'clock. Yeah, I think I may actually knock off. How long have I been going? Not terribly long, but I got other stuff I want to do. I guess I gotta do some prep for these interviews tomorrow. Let me just push that up, make sure that works okay. I don't know what the point of this stuff is, but okay. I guess this shows how much time it takes to run everything. All right. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna knock that off there. I don't know what's up with my camera. My camera likes to put me periodically in the Fight Club basement. I'm not sure what's up with that, but there you go. Anyway, I'm gonna knock off. I have some other things I need to do this afternoon, including getting some food in me. So I guess everybody's lurking in right now in chat if anybody's still there. But for any lurkers, I appreciate you joining me. And if anybody's watching the VOD after the fact, I also thank you for joining me. And until next time, I bid you peace and take care. See ya.